How's it going, guys? I'm going to do some predictions here for UFC 183. I'm going to start in the main event of the prelims, which is Sarah McMahon versus Misha Tate. I think this is a great fight for women's MMA. Another good fight for women's MMA. Misha Tate, I think she's done well with the role she's had in a Strike Force days and in the UFC, current UFC. I think she's represented the sport very well. She's done a great job, especially going up against someone like Ronda Rousey, who's like a man in a woman's body. She's just a beast, isn't she? Let's just put it that way. Sarah McMahon, I felt a bit sorry for her against Ronda Rousey because she weren't really given a chance to do anything with her game plan. She got stopped very, very quickly, and I think that was from a knee to the liver. I'm going to go with Misha Tate in this because I think she's got an overall better, she's got more tools in the toolbox, put it that way. I think she'll win a decision, a very close decision, though. I think Sarah McMahon will get her down a few times, but I think Misha will fight up, and I think it's just going to be one of those dodgy decisions that you see in the UFC. The first fight on the main card is Jordan Main against Thiago Alves. Big fan of Thiago, but you don't see him fight too often. I remember he fought GSP at UFC 100, and after that, he just seemed to get injured all the time and stuff like that. I remember when he come into the UFC, I think he lost against John Fitch. I think that was his first loss in the UFC. And then he went on like a crazy winning streak against like Chris Lyle, Matt Hughes, and then he got like a title shot. I think did he beat Josh Koscheck as well? Anyway, I think he beat Josh Koscheck as well. And GSP sat on him, laid on him as per usual. And after that, he seems to get injuries quite a lot. I think he's had a lot of surgeries, but I do think if he's healthy in the cage Saturday night, I think he will beat Jordan Main. Next of all is, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, but I think it's like Thais Laites. He's fighting Tim Boach. Tim, big fan of his since his win against Okami. I respect anybody that when they're down and out, they come back because that shows true character, and I respect that. To beat Okami in his home country after being beaten up, landing those crazy uppercuts, that was just one of my favourite all-time UFC moments. Great fight, great moment. So I'm going to go with Tim in this. Tim's like one of those guys, he probably will never get the belt, but he's going to lose against great guys and he's going to win some great guys. So I'm going to go with Tim on this one. Next of all is Joe Lozon against Al Iaquinta. Joe Lozon, really, really like the guy, great personality. I remember watching, I think it was season 5 of Ultimate Fighter. He beat Jens Pulver before he went on that show, and Jens Pulver was the coach on the show, and it's kind of crazy how that happened. So I've watched him for many years now. I want Joe to win, but I do think Al Iaquinta will win. He's on the streak. He's got this, this team around him at the moment. Matt Serra, Chris Weidman, Longo, and people like that. I just think there's great things happening with that fight camp, and it's going to be a tough thing for Joe to beat Al Iaquinta. In the co-main event, it's Tyron Woodley against Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, I remember him on the Ultimate Fighter, and he was like a heavy underdog going into the finale against Uriah Hall. And I was thinking, this is an easy fight for Kelvin Gastelum. Just the way he moves, the way he gets into positions. He's like a freak athlete that can fight. He's a fucking warrior. It's simple as that. He's going to beat Tyron Woodley. Mark my words. He's going to win him, and he's going to win him easily. If he doesn't get caught in the first round, if he doesn't get punched, he's going to win Tyron very easily. And he's a heavy underdog. I mean, I sound like pretty sure on that, but I do think he'll win. I think he's a future champion. When I seen him, I just rate him a lot. So I think he's going to win Tyron Woodley very easily. Anderson Silva against Nick Diaz. This is like a dream fight for me. One of my dream fights to happen now would be Fedor Emelianenko against Cain Velasquez, but I wouldn't want it to happen at the same time because Fedor is past his peak. But if I could have one fight in history to happen, it would be Fedor against Cain Velasquez. But this is another dream fight for me. They're both like taunters. They taunt in the cage. they're both crazy. I mean, Anderson, this is the thing about Anderson. He's like, you see him out the cage, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but he's sort of like, you could imagine him in the Jackson 5 or something. You know, the way he plays around, he's like, hee, and he's laughing all the time and everything like that. You just could imagine him in the Jackson 5 singing and dancing all the time. And Nick Diaz, I think, is like a misunderstood guy. You know, he says things because I don't think he really likes being interviewed. Not everyone wants a camera in the face, you know. But I think he's got better with age. You know, he does better interviews now. But I just like his character. I just think he's a real cool guy. And wherever he fights, it could be Bellator, Strikeforce, Pride, UFC. I've always watched him. I've always gone out of my way to watch him or at least see who won. And this is a weird fight. And this is a very strange fight. You know, it's like, it's really hard to predict this. I want Nick to win. Even though I'm a fan of Anderson, I want Nick to win because Nick's still young, man. He's only 30. You know, he's only 30, 31 or something like that. If he wants to, he's still got a lot of years ahead of him. Anderson, he's like just turned 40 or his late 30s. He's lost against Chris Weidman twice, which is nothing to be ashamed of. But the losses against Weidman are like kind of weird and shady. You know, the first one, he was getting very cocky. And I think he was starting to get into Weidman's head before that happened. You know, Weidman, you could just tell he was like, fucking hell, this guy's crazy. And then Weidman just ended up hitting him when Anderson were like closing his eyes and doing all this weird shit. And then the other one, you know, the second fight, in all honesty, I do think Chris were going to beat him before that happened. He like, he got him in the clinch and like uppercutted him and dropped him and started hitting him. And then Anderson like sort of come to his senses again. And then he ended up like breaking his shin, which were, I just remember watching like, whoa, you know, because I think it was Corey Hill, who was from the season 5 Ultimate Fighter. He did something similar when he smashed his shin. But, you know, those losses in the UFC, they've got that sort of mystery and thing around them, you know. I'm going to go with Nick Diaz. And I was tweeting a couple of people on Twitter the other day and saying, I do think Nick will win. I think the losses against Weidman has done something to Anderson. I think, you know, a loss to anyone will do something to you, but I think the thing with his leg, I think that's a hard thing to come back from, and I think Nick is hungry. I think he might put a beating on Anderson. I think he might do it like another BJ Penn and just get in his face and just tire him out, because Nick Diaz, like, the only way someone really beats Nick Diaz is by sort of punching or point kicking against him and like moving around and stuff like that, or by holding him down. But name somebody that's beat him in a fight, as in standing toe to toe with him. I mean, I think it was Jeremy Jackson beat him earlier on. I think he TKO'd him back in the day, and that weren't even in UFC, that was in another organisation. Like TKO'd him or something. KJ Noons cut him and the fight got stopped, and then Nick Diaz won the rematch. Just name somebody that's beat him by fighting him, proper fighting him. And I think Anderson will fight him. I can't imagine Anderson to be taunting him and doing all this other stuff. I don't think he will. I think he'll be business. I think it'll be business in there for him in the cage. But I do think Nick will win. And it's either going to be Nick like destroying him, or, you know, I can't think of anything else happening. I think Nick was going to just take it to him. But the thing is, okay, I'm going to end on this. Anderson Silva, you can't count him out. But the reason why I'm saying Nick is going to win is because of the stuff that's happened to Anderson. If Anderson were fighting Nick 2 years ago, I'd say Anderson's going to win, because he's gone up to 205 and knocked out some giants. You know, he made Forrest look like an average fighter. Let's just say that. When I watched him against Forrest Griffin all those years ago at UFC 101, it was almost as if Anderson come from the Matrix. The way he moved, you know, it was fucking spooky, to be honest with you. He jabbed Forrest Griffin and knocked him out. You know, how crazy. But I just do think there's a lot of things going on in his head, and I think Nick will use that against him. So I'm going to end this video now, because I could talk about it for days. It's going to be a great card, and I can't wait. But, you know, anything could happen in the main event. I mean, Anderson Silva could end up being better. You know, that could happen. That's a possibility. But will it happen? I doubt it. So I think Nick will win. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I'm going to do some more like this in future. Maybe get a better camera or better setup or something, and do some other stuff like this. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the event, and take care.